Welcome to the 2023 Meet the Candidates Forum with your moderator, Joe Formino.
Now, we've had a drawing so that the candidates know the order of their presentation. And as you can see, we have something a little different this year. We are using the PowerPoint. So to begin with, candidate statements of 5 minutes. The candidates can either sit at the table or they can use the podium on my left, at the stage right. The timekeeper down below will show them a 1-minute time card, a 30-second, and then a thank you. And we expect the candidate to end the narration at that time. So let's begin. I would like to first introduce all of the candidates. I would like to introduce all of the candidates. Gary Burkle.
Where are you?
Laurie Hazelton.
I'm not seeing
Howard
it.
Katz.
So you,
Sharon Robinson. And Beverly Simmons.
It's on here.
Before we start our proceedings, let us please stand for the pledge.
yeah, because you're not hot on your thing. You probably got this out too high.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. On the first of our list, we have Laurie Hazelton.
Good afternoon. I'm Laurie Hazelton, and I'm currently the secretary on the board of directors and a candidate for re-election. I was born in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. My family moved to Southern California in 1957. I'm married to Phil Hazelton for 37 years. We have 5 children and 11 grandchildren, which we host Sunday night dinner for each week. It's total chaos, and I wouldn't change it for a thing. Moved to Sun Lakes 13 years ago, and I've been active in community service for 11 years. Page. My community involvement thus far consists of 2 years on the Master Board of Directors. I was a delegate for Districts 8 and 11 for 8 years combined. I was the co-chairman of the District Delegate Assembly in 2020. I've been a past president of the Sun Lakes Tennis Club. I'm active in tennis, card clubs, recreational golf, and billiards. I'm also, last but not least, the elder at the Beaumont Presbyterian Church. My professional experience includes being active in real estate for 14 years and president of a real estate management company. I was also an executive assistant at Loma Linda University Medical School and an executive assistant at the Kaiser Fabricating Plant. This is not the Kaiser steel mill that you probably remember. It was the fabricating plant that mostly consisted of the engineers that were responsible for designing and fabricating big pipelines. So it was quite an experience. I'm committed to improving the serviceability and overall viability of the restaurant and lounge to best meet the needs of homeowners by observing and auditing the monthly inventory. The amenities are a top priority, focusing on the expansion of the restaurant and lounge and keeping our golf courses private. I'm concentrating on the needs and concerns of all of our residents and maintaining our Sun Lakes lifestyle. Board accomplishments thus far include I co-created the 2023 annual budget with a minimal $10 increase for the year. Also helped to create the message to management communication system to ensure timely responses for when you contact message to management, you'll get a response quite quickly. I also designed the outdoor lighting on the veranda and helped with the new upgraded casino-grade carpet that we're patiently waiting for, and the atrium in the billiards room as well. I also helped review contracts with the Contract Procurement Committee for cost savings, and I took it upon myself to review and understand the reserve report to better manage this multi-million-dollar endeavor. I also served as liaison to the Lifestyles, Restaurant and Lounge, Recreation and Master Architectural Committees, co-chaired the monthly listening sessions. When reelected, I will continue to oppose the Banning Point Warehouse. I will work toward refurbishing and reactivating our beautiful waterfalls, which I know is good news to everybody. I would also continue to fight against excessive HOA increases. I would ensure that the lounge expansion is done with funds from the Capital Improvement Fund. And I will continue to monitor the budget weekly and monthly, keeping track of food and beverage costs with the analysis group. And just a quick note, the analysis group is helping watch over the inventory currently once a month in the restaurant lounge, and it's turning out to be very good. These are unprecedented times, and as such, continuity is most important during the transition in order to maintain forward motion. It will be my honor to continue to serve on the master board because I just got the red sign. I appreciate your vote. Stop.
Thank you, Laurie. And number 2 on our list is Gary Burkle.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you all for coming today. Nobody told me about this weather when I moved here. I don't even quite understand it. I'm a retired CPA. My wife, Nora, and I moved to Sun Lakes in September of 2021. We bought a home on that faces, our backyard faces the 9th green. We have a fountain, and we have just a beautiful backyard. You have to come and visit us sometime. I grew up in Michigan. When I was 21 years old, I joined the U.S. Navy. I spent 2 years in the South China Sea on an ammunition ship that delivered munitions to our soldiers on the ground in Vietnam. After I was discharged from the Navy, I moved to Northern California and went to college at Sonoma State University, and I received a degree in accounting. After graduation, I went to work for a large local CPA firm in San Francisco, California. That firm had a wonderful training program. I received a lot of training, and then I worked for many companies around the Bay Area of San Francisco in their accounting departments, auditing their financial statements, analyzing financial statements, and after a number of years, I was consulting on how to prepare the financial statements and learning management consulting and helping people get good information to help manage their business. I spent 40 years in public accounting. I'm not a person who boasts, but I can pretty much tell you that I'm an expert in financial statement preparation, analysis, and just how understanding what makes a business run well and what causes it to have problems. I started my own business with a partner in Northern California. That business continues to this day with my name on it and has grown to one of the larger local firms in Santa Rosa, California. I retired the first time in 2014. My wife and I traveled the world. As my wife likes to say, travel is an education. I agree with her. We traveled in Europe and Mexico and all over Italy. We stayed in Italy for a month. After traveling for a year, I went back to work. I worked for the state of California as a regulator in the accounting industry. I was hired because of my experience in, the accounting business, so to speak. And interestingly, I mean, that job was as a regulator. I worked for the Enforcement Division of the California Board of Accountancy, and we investigated complaints. When complaints were filed against CPAs in California, I was sent out to do an investigation, take depositions, and recommend action against the CPA firms if necessary. Since moving to Sun Lakes, I've been active on the Financial Advisory Committee, which, as you may know, reviews the monthly financial statements and makes recommendations to the board. I also was involved with Lori on the Restaurant Analysis Group, looking into the activities of the restaurant and lounge. Since I am an accountant, I'm going to bore you with a couple of numbers. But when, at January 1, 2019, Sun Lakes had $2.2 million in their bank account and 1.8 million bills for, excess of cash over bills of $400,000. At the end of 2022, we had $500,000 in the bank in our operating fund and $1 million in bills, $500,000 excess bills. At that time, we owed per service residential $710,000. For the period of 2019 to 2022, we have lost over $1,097,000 in the restaurant and lounge over the budgeted loss. So every year we budget a loss. We've exceeded that loss by $1,097,000. If I'm elected, obviously I would focus on the finances of this organization, help to reduce the loss in the restaurant. I think the board should be increased to 7 people. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for your presentation. And the next on our list is Howard Katz.
Thank you, Joe. I just want to see if this works before I start. Okay. Slow, but it works. All right. Thank you very much. My name is Howard Katz, candidate for Sun Lakes Master Board. This is the 4th time I've run. I'm running again because I know I will make a difference. I want your vote. My goal as a member of the Master Board is to ensure the great quality of life here at Sun Lakes continues. My objectives are: 1, increase Master Board transparency; 2, improve Sun Lakes management; 3, stabilize reserve funding; increase financial oversight; reduce restaurant and lounge losses; and reduce golf losses. Kathy, my wife of 60-plus years, and I moved to Sun Lakes in 2017, and I dove in. I'm a member of the Computer Club and the Yiddish Culture Club. I am the alternate delegate for District 23. I was vice president of the Pass Action Group and recently chair of the Financial Advisory Committee. I have solid management, organization, budgeting, goal setting, requirements definition, project management, and IT experience. I worked 37 years in information technology, 30 years with IBM, and 20 in management positions. My objectives are: 1, to increase Master Board transparency. Our Master Board is not transparent and conducts too much of its business in executive sessions. At other times, there is insufficient dialogue and information sharing with homeowners and residents. All appropriate Master Board meetings must be conducted in open meetings. The Master Board must create better methods to distribute information to all homeowners and residents. 2, improve Sun Lakes management. The Master Board does not function as a board of directors. It functions as a management committee, micromanaging everything in Sun Lakes. The Master Board does not use its advisory committees to its best advantage. Most of their recommendations are not implemented. The management company accomplishes many things well, but has been deficient in important areas such as managing the restaurant and lounge. It is time for a new majority on the master board. The new majority must resolve the management company's deficiencies. Stabilized reserve funding, number 3. Our reserve should be at or close to 70%. The 2019 through 2023 annual budget reports show our reserve funding has been declining. On page 17 of the 23 statement, it shows our reserve at 30.9% in 2032. We need to do better scheduled deposits to and withdrawals from our reserve, and the amounts of our deposits and withdrawals must be keyed to retaining our reserve at the proper level. Number 4, increased financial oversight. The Financial and Restaurant and Lounge Advisory Committees were doing financial oversight. The Master Board stopped them because they had submitted articles with financial information for the February issue of Lifestyles. The Master Board canceled the articles because it thought publication would reflect negatively on itself. We need more, not less, financial oversight. The Management Board needs to reauthorize the Financial and Restaurant and Lounge Advisory Committees to perform it. 5, reduce restaurant and lounge losses. From February 22 through January 23, the restaurant and lounge together lost $796,000. The smallest loss was $736 in April, and the largest was $138,000 in December. How can such a small operation lose so much money in such a short time? How restaurant and lounge monthly labor cost is too high. It varies from slightly below to slightly above monthly revenue. There are few control and operating procedures. 6, reduce golf losses. Last year, golf operations plus a pro shop produced $1,331,000 of revenue, $550,000 in expenses, profit of $781,000. That's pretty good, but it leaves out the cost of maintenance. If you add in the cost of maintenance, golf operations lost $2,385,000. It is essential to market our golf courses within Sun Lakes to bring in more residents, and we must think outside of the box to change the way golf is run. My name is Howard Katz, candidate for Sun Lakes Master Board. I want your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you for your presentation. Our next candidate is Sharon Robinson, and she has a presentation for us.
I'm waiting for my screen to start. Hi, I'm Sharon Robinson. I have been a homeowner here in Sun Lake since 2015, and being a second-generation Sun Laker, I have been visiting since 1991. It's even more beautiful today than it was when we first started visiting. My service to the community includes serving 4 years on the Sun Lakes Fairway Villa Board of Directors. I also serve as co-chair on the social committee for our district as well. I am the current chair of the Restaurant and Lounge Advisory Committee and vice chair on the Financial Advisory Committee. My professional work history includes currently serving as a board of directors for a nonprofit for the past 8 years. I owned and operated my own insurance agency and held all required licensing. Being that I also sold bank and financial products, I held both a Series 6 and 63 financial securities license. I worked in the restaurant industry for over 25 years and was an operations supervisor for the last 15. We had 16 restaurants in 2 states. I opened multiple new restaurants, countless remodels. I created and executed a management development program and testing of a nationwide POS system. I handled everything from hiring, training, litigations, operations management, product implementation, and marketing. I was an on-site property manager for over 9 years with 13 buildings and 54 units. I also had rental property here in Sun Lakes for 3 years. I believe all of that and those skills are very transferable to serving on the board of directors here. While I am the chair and vice chair on 2 committees, I am here today as a homeowner and a candidate. Now, why must I clarify that? because in January, this board decided to rewrite the charter and add that should a member publicly criticize the board, that they may be removed from a committee. While I'm not here to criticize anyone, I will share facts that I have been prevented from sharing previously. Our homes is one of our largest investments, and board members have a fiduciary responsibility while serving. Our voice has been ignored and even silenced at times, and this needs to change. All homeowners should have the opportunity, if they choose to voice their opinions and have their voices and choices heard. I hope to be a part of that change while helping to improve the financial health of our community. Apparently, the Master Board did not appreciate the reporting that was done in the January lifestyles. The response was to censor and pull both the restaurant and financial advisory articles for February. The board has presented only one of 3 lounge remodel options that they do already have. I presented an alternative plan which includes a proof of concept period to ensure that the investment is truly what the community will support. This should be completed prior to any investment being made. This is being done for the community, and they should be the ones to have the choice. And in a design that the community should have a voice in. I've campaigned to holding the management company accountable to the approved restaurant budget. I asked that they set clear expectations to completing an audit. Last year, the revenue was just over $1.7 million, while expenses were over $2.4 million. We have paid millions of dollars for Sun Lakes to be properly managed, and it is the board's responsibility to take appropriate action. The operating fund is basically the HOA's checking account from which the bills are paid. The liabilities shown are the bills. In 2019, this was a December report, there was over $1.5 million at the end of 2022. It is down to around $489,000, less than a third of what it was in the account just 4 years ago. Also note that the liabilities are more than double what is available in the operating fund. The board, as I said, has a fiduciary responsibility to all of us, a duty of loyalty to the entire association, a duty of care to make informed decisions, and a duty to act within the scope of their authority. All of this is to keep our community financially healthy while also maintaining the beauty of its amenities. If elected, I will work with fellow board members to address the following: giving the community opportunities to voice their preferences, greater accountability with the budget and utilization of the master plan once created, increased security with a focus on prevention, restaurant and golf cost controls and increasing community participation in both, increased community involvement through the committees and community volunteers, content presented visually at master board meetings, including the financials, increasing use of informational videos and website functionality, creation of the policy and procedure manual and committee handbook, and of course, opposing the Banner Point Warehouse project. I want to encourage you to vote based on skills and experience the candidates possess. Vote for those that will allow you a voice in your HOA, and we'll listen to it. Thank you.
Stop.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for your presentation. Very nice. And last but not least, we have Beverly Simmons.
Last but not least. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Beverly Simmons. I've lived in Sun Lake since 2008. I purchased my home in 2014, and after working with many clubs and committees, was elected to the Master Board in 2021. And I have to tell you, it's been my pleasure to serve these past 2 years. My focus as a board member continues to be on an interactive, respectful, and transparent communication. It's a foundation from which we can build. In my work life, I've been involved in a variety of industries, including engineering, technology, and medical sales, property and HOA financial management, hospitality, event planning, and career coaching. I worked with clients on leadership and communication skills. I have successfully run a direct sales franchise for 20 years, am a certified arbitrator, and practiced with the County of Riverside in small claims court. All of these experiences have taught me much, but my biggest takeaway is that clear communication is the key to successful solutions. I moved to Sun Lakes because of the lifestyle, and there are many projects that the board is working on now that I want to continue to be involved with to sustain this lifestyle. Obviously, communication is top of the list, and we'll talk about that more in a bit. One of the first things that attracted me to Sun Lakes was the safety and security it offered. I want to walk or drive my streets without having to worry about people speeding or running stop signs. None of us want to fear for the safety of our property, and the board is taking action. This is a high priority for me. You've heard me talking about it for the past several months. We've asked the Safety Advisory Committee to generate a safety analysis for the community and work with the board to look into different kinds of stop signs that might be visible, speed control ideas, and there's lots of those, and other safety solutions, including an updated camera system throughout the entire community. Restaurant and Lounge. This is the first committee that got me involved as its chairperson, and it's the #1 priority, as you've heard, right now for the association. This department has been seriously experiencing loss. The Financial Advisory Committee and the Restaurant and Lounge Advisory Committee are closely focused on this, and the board is listening to them. We created the Restaurant and Lounge Analysis Group with members from both advisory committees as well as staff to look more deeply into the food and beverage operations. They are identifying areas of concern to help mitigate loss and increase revenue. And this collaboration has been a success. We are already seeing better controls in place regarding labor and food costs, food waste, menu pricing, and more. And it's a collaboration I applaud, and I want to thank all of this team for the attention they've put into this. Yet, we still need to increase the patronage. And I believe that the lounge expansion is a great step, very proactive step in that direction. It's one I fully support, and it's one that's still very much in its infancy. Affordability. Sun Lakes continues to be affordable and financially healthy. At the end of 2022, the net income for the total of all operations was $259,750 better than what was budgeted. If you go back and listen to the open session, you'll hear Ron Varner tell you more about this. I'm committed to keeping us affordable and healthy, and I've done well in the past 2 years. I'll continue to partner with the team of the board, management, and advisory committees, and all of you, to create a realistic budget that addresses the concerns of our residents, sustains our quality of life, and remains affordable. We are a gated 55-plus, private, beautifully maintained golf course community with amenities galore. This lifestyle and quality of life is what brought me here, and probably brought many of you here. It's of the utmost importance to me to help sustain that. I bring a diverse background with wide-ranging experience, plus strong leadership, communication, and people skills. I'm honest, consistent, and fair, and I want to promote the best interests of the entire association. In the 2 years I've been on this board, I've worked hard to open and improve the lines of communication with the listening sessions, the Did You Know articles and lifestyle, which I write, and the more in-depth explanations of upcoming projects, ideas, and actions that the Master Board is taking. Many of you are also becoming involved, and good things are happening, the Master Plan Initiative being one of them. I really do want what's best for Sun Lakes, and broadening and strengthening the lives of communication will help us identify what this is, and I bring skills to do that. I'm Beverly Simmons, and I would appreciate your vote. Stop.
I want to thank you, the candidates, for their presentations. I think it gave everyone an idea of what their emphasis might be in the future. And at this time, we should, again, thank them for volunteering. It is a volunteer position, for volunteering to assist our HOA. The next section allows our members of the HOA to ask questions of the candidates. And this is important because it's the voice of the people that is coming through. However, we have a panel of delegates who go through all of the questions, and they will weed out those that are pointed to one or perhaps last elections or something having to do with the personality of a particular candidate. Those are not allowed. Now, as you will note that our candidates are seated at the tables alphabetically, Gary being number 1 and Lori number 2 and so on. So the questions will be answered by each candidate for a minute and a half, and our timer will notify them as she has done for the presentations. And the first question will be answered by Gary first and then down the line. And the second question will then move to Laurie first and down the line and Gary on the end. So that not every one is Gary first, okay? So Gary, here you are, number one. And I shall repeat this at any request of the candidates. Reserves. How do we build them back up, especially as our community is growing older?
I'm sorry, Joe, I didn't hear all of the
I
question.
will repeat that. How do we build our reserves back up, especially as the community is getting older?
Well, I'm not sure if they're talking about the operating fund reserve or the replacement fund or the capital fund. But as far as the operating fund, I agree we need to increase the reserve. As I said, and others have pointed out, we have in our operating fund more bills than we have cash at times. The only way I see to reduce it is to reduce the loss in the restaurant and lounge. I think that'll solve the problem. I believe that the increases that we've had in the HOA, not so much in '23, but in prior years, '22, '21, those increases were caused by the fact that we lost so much money in the restaurant, in the lounge. So we have to solve that problem. I think with regard to the reserve and replacement fund, we need to do a better job of analyzing really what we need to replace. And I think we need to do a better job when it comes to budgeting for the repair and replacement fund. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. If I might at this time, I think maybe this question needs a little explanation. I'm going to read what I think it should be. Since we established our reserve system, we repair and replace our assets. As our reserves are reduced because of repairing our locations and our assets, how do we build the reserve fund back up? I believe that's the question. Laurie?
Well, Joe, I think the only answer to that is every year when we do the budget, we try to add a little bit in there to replace the reserve and refunds and the reserves and repairs. And I think that we try to keep it as low as we can, but we always do add to that fund. I do agree, though, I don't know, but does even the losses in the restaurant and lounge doesn't even pertain to this, does it? The losses in the restaurant and lounge wouldn't even pertain to this, yeah. But that's all right, it was hard to understand. And I would just say that we need to do a combination of adding maybe a little bit more, maybe $1 more per household for particularly to go to reserves and repairs and replacements, because that's hard to understand. And also, at the same time, we would want to really look at that, the replacement fund. In our budget, when we do our budget, we need to be a lot more careful about what we plan to repair and replace for the next year. Kind of cut that back a little bit, which I think we do somewhat. So, thank you.
Howard?
Hey, I get it working. This is really a simple question. It boils down to every time we purchase an asset, we take the expected life of that asset and we divide it by the number of years that it's going to be available to use, and then we take that number of years and divide it into the cost, and every year we should put that amount of money in the reserves so we can purchase a new one at the end of its life cycle. But life cycles are very interesting because some things may last 30 years, you only expect them to last 5. So why should you replace them at the end of 5 years? Wait until it's 30, so you need to review the reserves. What happens to lower the reserves is if you plan to replace things all at once because for some coincidence, they all come up for replacement at the same time. Such as this year, I think it's scheduled to replace $4 million worth of assets, and we're only going to put $2.5 million in reserves. So right away, we're going to lose $1.5 million out of the reserves. What it amounts to is better management of replacement, better management of maintenance, and to make sure we extend the life cycles, and you'll fix the reserve. Thank you.
Sharon?
Hi, Howard explained very well exactly what a repair and replacement fund is, and it's one of the 3 buckets, if you will, of the funds that we have that the board actually has to work to manage. If you all receive your annual budget report, it does actually have a couple of pages pertaining to the repair and replacement fund, so you can actually look at that, and it actually projects out what we expect to spend each year. But to Howard's point, it's planned, and yet we have to each year then take that opportunity to decide, does this need replacing at this time or not? Is it something that can be delayed? We are an aging community, not just us, but our property. Our properties are aging, the infrastructure is aging, and the board has to do its due diligence in looking at that. It doesn't always pay to put it off, because next year it could be more expensive to replace than repair it. So we always have to look at that as well. It takes good informed decisions that the board is, having to make. And it's an important bucket that we have to continue to manage. And yes, it is one that we have to finance through the budget. And so it has to be analyzed well and financed well. Thank you.
Go ahead.
The reserves are slightly misunderstood, though most of what was said today is true. Everybody, we call it reserves, but it truly is a repair and replacement. It's for things that need to be fixed. For example, the dehumidifier right now in the South Clubhouse, we have put that off for probably 8 years. That's where the challenge lies. We should have repaired and replaced it 8 years ago. It's falling apart. And 8 years ago, it would have been a whole lot cheaper than it's going to be now. So repairs and replacement, the reserve fund that we do is a guide to help us kind of see the way that we need to go. And if we can put something off, then we certainly will, because if it's not broken, why do we fix it? But sometimes things all break together, or have they been put aside for so long that now you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars that are going to have to go because it's falling apart. It's an emergency. So Sharon's right. We do have to manage that. We do have to look at that. And that's where you've got to come in and look at an overall big picture instead of just looking at the one thing at a time. It is definitely a piece that needs to be managed, and it's a difficult thing, but it is something that we do have to do for this aging community. And it's funded through our association fees. Sorry, nobody answered that, did they?
Thank you, Beverly. The next question is a direct and very succinct. Should we expand the lounge? Laurie, you're first.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. The lounge expansion is a top priority and has a very high approval rate from the residents thus far. The number one benefit for expanding the lounge is increasing the revenue. The funds for this expansion will come from the Capital Improvement Fund. And by the way, the same design firm is working on the lounge, restaurant, and the sandwich at the same time, even though they're not all being taken care of at the same time. And I'm sorry, Joe, tell me that question again.
Just, should we expand the lounge?
Okay. Yes, absolutely, we should expand the lounge.
Thank you. Howard?
lost time. Thank you very much. This is a very interesting question. Should we expand the lounge? Well, I've been in the lounge area at night and seen tables stacked almost on top of tables with too many people in there and not able to really enjoy themselves. It would be a great idea to expand the lounge. But is that lounge expansion going to pay for itself, or is the same number of people going to show up as to today, and we're going to have lots of empty space? Before we spend $500,000 to $1 million on doing the lounge, as Sharon said, a proof of concept. I mentioned that to Sharon. We long discussed it, and Sharon presented to the master board. We really need to do a proof of concept on that expansion. There's a way to do it which is inexpensive to do without investing $500,000 to $1 million to see if people are going to come in and warrant that kind of expansion. I think it's a great idea, but let's do a proof of concept test to make sure we can. That's a project the master board was advised of, and we haven't heard anything about that project since. And I think proof of concept ought to be done and started tomorrow to see whether people are going to come in and that money is worthwhile. Thank you.
Jared?
There's my green light. Ultimately, I think it should be a community decision. A proof of concept, as Howard mentioned, should be first done within a set budget. The return on investment should also be done both in regards to the revenue it would generate and as an improved asset of ours as well. If successful, though, then personally, yes, I would be in favor of expanding the lounge. Again, I am the chair of the Restaurant and Lounge Committee. I think it's a plus. Those that I've spoken with and those that use the facility, I think they are also in favor of it, and I believe it would be very successful if done right. The community would have to increase its level of participation too, and considering that the lounge is a gathering place for all of our community, it can be a revenue generator if properly managed. So those going to go hand in hand. I believe it though would serve our community very well, and I think it could be very beautiful, and I think we could all enjoy it and allow for the flexible use that we come to gather here. So thank you.
Thank you.
You've already heard me say that, yes, I think we should expand the lounge, and for many of the reasons that have already been touched on. But look at it just today. And if anybody came down for Monday Night Football, we were way over the number of people that we should have had in there. The lounge attracts people. It's a place where you can go and relax and have fun and share that time with each other. You can also get dinner in there. You can also, with this expansion, we're going to be able to bring music back into the lounge. It's a gathering place. We will still have a smaller restaurant where people can have a different experience. But Sun Lakes is built on socializing. That's what we do here. That's our high priority. That's why COVID was so difficult for everybody. We socialize here, and that's the social place to go. So yes, I believe it would be a very good thing for us to do to expand that lounge. It's obvious we need to manage it correctly, and we are working with that with the restaurant and lounge right now. There have been issues. I know that, but they are things that we are looking at and taking care of and can move forward with. So it's a gathering place. That's where we're going to make our money, in the restaurant, in the lounge area. Thank you.
All right, the next question, Howard, you start. And the question is, what is your opinion
Joe?
of self-management?
Help, Joe, I didn't get to answer the last question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gary, I didn't mean to.
That's okay. Well, anyway, I agree with, I am in favor of expanding the lounge. If I had anything to say about the whole process, I would say that the master board should have used the Financial Advisory Committee and the Restaurant and Lounge Committee and got a little more buy-in from those committees. The reason those committees exist is to give advice to the board on the areas like the restaurant and lounge and the finances. I think as we look at expanding the lounge, we have to also look at the management of the lounge. I can say from my involvement on the restaurant analysis group that the management needs to improve, or we'll have an expanded lounge that may or may not make money. And there are ways to look closely at how it should be run so that it's profitable. And I don't believe that is being done at this time. So again, I'm for it. I mean, it would be nice to have some community forums to talk about the lounge, to get feedback, a little more feedback from the community. But I do believe that right now we have too big of a restaurant and too small of a lounge. So conceptually, it's a great idea.
Thank you, Gary. I didn't mean to exclude you. I do this every year, all right? All right, and the next question I will repeat. What is your opinion of self-management? And Howard, you are first.
Keep forgetting to turn it on. Self-management is a very interesting concept. People would like to bring things in-house so they have better control of what happens. Is it a good idea? That's questionable. The first is that in order to do self-management, you need the same functions, potentially same number of people to do the jobs, but now they're working here instead of some of them off-site. You have to manage all those people. The board of directors would need a second level under that here to manage all the people. We'd need an HR department, a computer department. We would need all kinds of things on site or in a building very close to do all the jobs that First Service or any other management company would do. You can't get away from doing the function just by bringing it on site. You have to do the function and have to invest in the function. We may need to expand the admin building to accommodate all those additional people. It's a very great concept, but for the job that needs to be done by the master board or by a board of directors or a management committee, I don't think 8 hours a day, 6 days a week of doing that kind of work, people are going to sign up for free. You're going to have to pay them.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, as I'm with Howard. It's a big ask for a group of volunteers to literally be managing, putting in those kinds of hours. And having come from managing at a very high level, it's a lot of hours. I had a goal of just being able to sleep 6 hours a day. When I did the operations management that I did, it was a 24-hour operation, and I was not successful in that. And I think this would be the same thing. We're a big aging community. The infrastructure requires a lot of input. It's also dependent, again, on the level of expertise of the individuals running on the board. And we've had boards that had business experience, and we've had boards that don't have business experience. And again, we're a $14 million a year entity. So you're going to have to always then plan to have experts that can manage that. Also, it includes having a board. We're all 55 plus. We lost a board member this past year, and we would have to then prepare for that potential. So for those reasons and more, I would not be in favor at all of self-management unless there's a new plan out there. I'd say no. So if there's rumors otherwise, please, you can shut them down for me. Thanks.
This question came up in 2021, and I'm going to stick with what I said then. I'm not in favor of it, for many of the reasons that have already been brought up, but there's some other reasons as well. Right now, we have a management company on property, and they handle all aspects of managing this property, including HR. HR is a can of worms. You have to have incredible knowledge and experience to run an HR department. In the past several years, we have had a couple of instances where we have been sued by a resident for some reason or another. But because it was a reason of one of the staff who works here, we were being sued. Well, the staff works for the management company. When we have a management company who's the buffer, who takes away everything from Sun Lakes, they were completely responsible for the liability of that. They were the ones who got sued, not us. So we have that added level of protection when you have a management company. And right now, the way we run this, I mean, when you bring in self-management, they hire a management company, then we hire a GM to manage the management company. The board directs the GM, and the GM directs the man. Well, that's what we do now. It just seems that it's just that our GM also works for the company. But that's how we run right now. We direct the GM who directs his committee, or his staff. So I don't think it's a good idea at all.
Stop.
Thank you.
Larry, you're up.
I'm not in favor of self-management, but there's one situation that really bothers me about our current setup, in that our general manager works for FirstService and by nature has a conflict of interest when he's trying to operate for Sun Lakes or for FirstService. And obviously, when you're working for a company that pays your compensation and pays you bonuses based on the performance of that company, you're gonna have a problem. If it was up to me, I would contract for the different business operations, the restaurant and the lounge, the golf. I would have a contract that's way different than the contract that FirstService has. That contract would pay those operators a certain amount per month. Then we would know each year how much it's going to cost us. Then you would just contract separately for the administration, and the issue of the conflict of interest, I would figure out somehow how to address that in the contract with the administrative part of the organization. That's what I would do.
Laurie?
Self-management is a huge undertaking, and in my opinion, it would be next to impossible. There are so many variables to self-management. I try to never say never, because everything is always evolving and changing. But if you think about it, we are basically self-managed now. The board hires the management company and oversees all of the operations. It is important to note that a request for proposal will be sent out soon for the management. And also, I was, Beverly, the board representative at the mediation when we were sued by one of the restaurant employees. And we were not held responsible because this was not our employee. First Residential was responsible, and they had to make a settlement. Thank you.
Okay, Sharon, you're first. And the question is, what is your solution to the loss in the lounge? Restaurant.
I started saying, we don't have a loss in the lounge. We actually, the losses are in the restaurant. And again, this is my area of expertise. And first of all, and I actually said it a little bit at the beginning, we have to set very clear expectations of the management company that whoever it is that is being employed. Budget, hours of operations, standards of service, that has to be just set in stone. This is the expectation, and it should be met. Why we continue to allow the management company to run over budget, over labor hours, I don't understand it. And it's been a question that I've been asking all year, quite honestly. It's been frustrating in that regard. We have to increase community participation through aggressive marketing. That also was another recommendation made by the Restaurant and Lounge Committee to the Master Board. We have to give the community back their voice in what they would like in the restaurant and lounge, whether it's menus, specials, wines, and events. It's your restaurant. It should be your decision. Establish a percentage-based pricing strategy. Because we are a single entity, we don't have the purchasing power that a national chain has. So we have to get more aggressive in trying to find better opportunities for pricing. In the meantime, it has to be percentage-based. Also, regular inventory by us, Sun Lakes, of our community assets. To me, the restaurant lounge, the equipment, the food, the wine, the liquor, all of it, it's our asset. We should have access to that to be able to monitor it by the committee.
Stop.
I could go on and on.
Beverly.
I think the biggest thing with increasing revenue is increasing participation. This has always been a challenge here, and I'm not sure why. Ron Varner said at the last open session that he'd like to see this become everybody's favorite restaurant, and so would I. Yes, we have challenges, and yes, those are being addressed. So, as Sharon said, management is very important, and making sure that we've got strong boundaries set and they know exactly what the expectations are, and we are doing that. But it really comes down to participation. We've got probably over 5,000 residents here, and we have maybe 15% of those who actually come into the restaurant. So where does everybody else go? This is, as Sharon said, your restaurant. So come use it. That's going to make the biggest difference, participation. And the food's good, so come on down. Thank you.
Gary?
As far as the restaurant, I'm going to age myself probably like everybody else here, but there was a management guru who once said a simple thing: managers must manage. And I don't believe that, that was Paul Drucker, by the way. But anyway, managers must manage, and that includes everything, including marketing, pricing. I mean, obviously we have to get more people into the restaurant, but I don't believe the restaurant is managed properly right now. There should be job descriptions for the food and beverage director. I don't believe those exist. We should understand those job descriptions and hold the people responsible for doing the job. If they can't do the job, then they need to be replaced. Then I also would consider what I said before, and that is to look at the possibility of contracting the restaurant differently. We absorb the losses, and frankly, as you may not know or you may know, First Service doesn't run any other restaurants. The only restaurant they run is ours, and it's the first restaurant they ever ran. So we're paying them to learn how to run a restaurant. And that's not...
Stop.
Thank you, Gary. Lori?
Okay. Like I said earlier, the board is currently working on cutting costs and increasing revenue in the restaurant and lounge. We have gotten really good results for the beginning of this year by reducing labor hours and inventory costs. And the food and beverage department will probably never be completely profitable. It is our board's goal, though, to cut the losses, and we are on the fast track to do this right now. We've had extremely good results for the beginning of the year. The restaurant and lounge is an operational amenity, and this means that the revenues and costs fluctuate daily and monthly. Our new marketing committee will be tasked with marketing the restaurant and lounge, and I think that we're on a good track right now to improve all of that. Thank you.
Well, I got the microphone turned on in time. One of the things that has come up is in this discussion is low patronage and high cost. People have to understand that the more people you get in there, your costs go up because you're going to have to buy more food, you're going to have more labor on the floor. So just low patronage and not doing something else is not going to solve the problem. The problems are in pricing, the menu, and whether the menu includes a la carte items or not to bring down the cost of a meal. Some of the people here can't afford the kind of prices that are being charged, not because the prices are outlandish, but because the menu isn't correct to give lower priced food. What really needs to be looked at is management, how this is done to make sure the restaurant runs right. The cost of labor in our restaurant is approximately the cost of the amount of revenue that comes in every month. And if you ran a business for $10 a month, but you're only getting $9 a month of revenue and your labor costs $11 a month, you can't make money. So labor's got to be done better. There needs to be operating procedures put into place. We need control procedures for purchasing. There's no PO system here on food. There is no check on receipt. Did we receive the stuff we ordered? The inventory system needs to be put
Stop.
in, and better labor scheduling.
All right. First of all, I would like to make an announcement. I was just entered a note. There's a Subaru Forester, license plate AG SUBIK, and the keys to the vehicle are on the table in the back. So we must have found the keys somewhere. Okay? All right. The next question, how can we maintain or improve our property values here at Sun Lakes? How can we maintain or improve our property here at Sun Lakes?
If I understand it correctly, it's how can we maintain or improve property values here in Sun Lakes, correct? Okay. So we have some pretty, and I believe I get to start. We have strong property values here because of the beauty of Sun Lakes. You know, the lifestyle that we have, the quality of life that we have, the two incredibly magnificent golf courses that we have, our properties are going to be strong. And that's what's going to maintain them, I believe, is to continue to maintain 30-plus-year-old community. I have friends who come down from Canada, and then they came here to see our community. And I told them how old it was. She said, really? I thought it was about 5 years old. That's because we spend time and money and repair and replace the things that we need to do to keep the look of the ground up. We also have amenities galore, and that is part of the value that comes in. This is a well-run property in so many ways, and I do believe that we can maintain those values that way. The capital improvements that we're doing is what's going to start to increase those property values. So we're starting off very strong, and the more what we do and the more we maintain and the more we improve, we're going to just increase those property values. Thank you.
Gary?
Well, we moved here because when we drove through Sun Lakes, it was probably one of the most beautiful communities we have been in. And I compliment the past master boards, and they've done a great job preserving the beauty of the community. I think obviously one thing that we could do to keep the values up is stop the Banning Point project. I mean, that is probably the biggest threat we have to the value of our property now. But short of that, I recognize, and I think most people recognize, probably not all, that the golf courses are the crown jewel of our property. And like I said, with regard to the house we purchased, our yard is on the golf course, and we love our house because of how it's located. So I think we're doing a fairly good job. If there's somebody that could tell me how to improve the city of Banning, then I think that would have a tremendous effect on the value of our property. Just, first, the government and city government. The good news, I guess, is we have a representative on the city council now that should hopefully make a difference, and I look forward to that. Thank you.
I will continue to preserve and enhance our facilities as I have done for the last 2 years, including the state-of-the-art pickleball conversion taking place right now, the veranda lighting, the ballroom painting, the carpeting, the projected lounge, and rebuilding our waterfalls. That's one of the biggest ones, I think, for us right now. All of these, along with preserving, maintaining, and enhancing our amenities, will help to accomplish this.
Howard?
By stopping so soon, I was not prepared. All right. we all recognize the fact that the golf course is a wonderful thing. It looks beautiful. That's one of the reasons my wife and I moved here, even though we don't play golf. It's a lot of open space, it's green, it's well-kept, and it looks fabulous. We need to continue maintaining the golf course the way it is, maintaining the properties, and maintaining the common areas. But how do we maintain the properties? That's by having a proper architectural committee, which has been doing a fabulous job keeping everyone maintaining their own properties so that we don't have individual eyesores on too many times. The warehouse, again, is something that needs to be, the opposition to it needs to be supported, because that's going to be a serious deterrent toward people moving in, but that even if it goes in, if we maintain our properties properly, that is not going to be that much of a deterrent. So, thank you.
Sharon?
There we go, green light. I think it starts when you just pull off the freeway. And as you all know, coming up Highland Springs Avenue can be challenging. I've waited five lights to get up here. So I think the city and the role the city council has is going to be important. And of course, stopping the warehouse. I mean, not just from the safety aspect, but our health and well-being. And that's going to deter people, I think, as well. One of the big things that nobody's mentioned yet is getting us in a financially healthy place. That includes our operating fund, our capital improvement fund, and also the repair and replacement fund. Those need to be looked at. I know when my husband and I, we went and looked, I looked at the financial part. I have a financial background. I wanted to know, is it financially healthy? So new homeowners are going to be looking at that, and are we in a good place? Amenities that are evolving with the changes. Again, I'm a second generation Sun Lakers. My parents had never heard of pickleball. So we have to be able to change with the change in the demographics. My generation, we're working later in life. So we need to have those amenities available later to them. The lounge being open later. I mean, they're getting off work at 6 and 7, and here the lounge is closed. So, we have to adapt and continue to evolve while still keeping in mind of the founders. We still want to be able to serve their needs and the community that lives here. So it's being able to balance all that, and new homeowners coming in and seeing that that's being done well and managed well with a board that cares. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Gary, you're number one. What, in your view, is the most important challenge facing Sun Lakes Country Club?
The most important what? The most important what?
Challenge.
What, in your view, is the most important challenge facing Sun Lakes Country Club? I presume the Board of Directors.
Well, I said it in the last question. I believe the Banning Port project is the biggest challenge. We need to, I guess I would say that from what I've heard, the Pass Action Group is doing a great job. They should be commended and supported. The chances are, because when you're in a litigation situation, sometimes it's an unending battle, unfortunately. The only winners end up being the attorneys sometimes. So we need to support the Pass Action Group, and hopefully they are successful on this first round. I guess this first round is coming up and going to be presented to the judge in the next few months. If it fails, I believe we have to appeal that. And I know that in the past, it was discussed and talked about the community itself using its resources, supporting that effort. And I don't believe myself that's necessarily the way it was presented in the past was done correctly or was arranged correctly. But I do think that we all have an interest in making sure that warehouse doesn't get built. So,
Stop.
Lori?
Okay, yeah, hands down. The biggest challenge right now is definitely the Banning Point Warehouse project. I will continue to support and commend the Pass Action Group for their unwavering determination to get this project halted. Our community has gone way overboard in this to help in any way that they can and to be Sun Lake strong in fighting this battle. We have a couple of community members who are collecting recyclables, and they donate everything they get. And I was recently at Dory's house and saw her garage. It's like a warehouse. I mean, wine bottles, beer bottles, soda cans. It's incredible the way that we have rallied together to fight, because this is the biggest challenge facing Sun Lakes right now. And just the congestion, the health issues, the traffic and difficulties for the first responders, those are challenging. So, thank you.
All right.
Well, the question is, what's the biggest challenge facing the Board of Directors? The Banning Point Warehouse is a challenge that we're not facing yet because it's not here. The challenge is fighting it in court and paying for the fight. The real challenge that's facing the Board of Directors today is financial management. There's far less cash in the bank than we have current liabilities. The restaurant is losing a substantial amount of money. Golf is not paying for itself. The residents, with our monthly assessments, are paying the subsidies to fulfill the costs that these things are losing. Financial management is really key right now, because if we fall below the amount of money that we have available to pay the current liabilities, we're not going to be able to maintain this place the way we want. And we would have to be drawing money from our reserves or some other source, or borrowing money to keep this place looking nice. So I'd say right now our biggest challenge is financial management, and let's add to that, as the icing on the cake, the Banning Point Warehouse. Thank you.
I'm afraid I'm just going to continue to echo what they've said. The warehouse, of course, I think is one of the challenges that we're all feeling, that we're facing individually and as a community, for the many reasons that have already been listed. For me, safety and security. My parents lived here for 30 plus years, and when my mom was widowed, it was a huge issue for me. Is my mom safe? And I felt like being in a gated community, she was. And then when I moved here, I realized, no, not so safe. And I think we're all feeling that with the RV break-ins, the homeless situation on the north side. It's scary. So I think that is a huge, it needs to be a priority for the board. How do we make it a safer community? That's one of the reasons why we moved here. We're fighting the good fight with the warehouse, and I appreciate all those that are doing so. But what are some of the more immediate things that maybe we can look at ourselves? I think safety and security. And I'm going to echo Howard in regards to the finances. It's having a financial background, I have serious, serious concerns. And when you have 3 members that have served on the Financial Advisory Committee, now running for your board, that has to tell you something. Thank you.
So I have a list. First and foremost, I support everything that we've said about stopping the Banning Point project. And PAG has made great inroads. In fact, if you start to look outside of this little area into the Inland Empire and some of the communities there, you'll see that this is becoming extremely aware to all of them. Moreno Valley is starting to kick in. So many of them are saying that you do not put warehouses as close to communities and houses as they have. And I really believe PAG has something to do with bringing it to awareness to everyone. So I applaud them for that. Safety and security, you heard me say that was one of the best things that brought me here to begin with. We don't need to have people speeding. We don't need to have people being hit by cars at stop signs. That must stop. The board has already taken action on it, and we will continue to do that. The financial challenge, at the last open session, our treasurer told us that we were financially healthy, with assets of $14.7 million and liabilities of $1.7 million, and about $1 million of these liabilities are really assets, prepays, and they're cash. We just can't claim them yet until we use them. So we have several things that we need to look at. And one of the best ones we can look at right now is the waterfalls are coming back. We're getting bids on them. They will be up and running soon. But there's several things that are in there that we need to look at.
Stop.
Thank you.
All right, the next question. What will you do collectively as a board member with the board to increase the patronage in the restaurant? I know we've had a lot of conversation about the restaurant. So but what would you do collectively?
Who starts?
You know,
And the
Joe,
board.
Lori? Okay.
are you done?
To increase the patronage in the restaurant?
You know, I really don't like going first. I have a little stage fright in this situation. I'm really sorry. I'm usually a lot more eloquent than this, but I will charge through. Okay, I think that we have a new marketing committee that was going to be up and running next month, and we're going to task them with starting to advertise as much as they can. And they're going to be marketing inside Sun Lakes, not outside of Sun Lakes. And pretty much, I think that I've had a lot of people tell me that they want us to do a coupon type of promotion where you can buy one, get one half off or something once a month, or for the people. There's a lot of ideas, and I personally would just love to do everything that we can to get all of the people into that restaurant and into that lounge all the time that we can. I was in there last Wednesday, and you couldn't even, there was no room to stand up. It was just packed. And I think that we're on the right track. Our numbers are going up. Everything continues to improve, and I have high hopes for our restaurant and our lounge.
It did mention, it did mention the restaurant and the lounge, but I separated the lounge because it's quite successful. And the restaurant is not quite successful.
Thank you. Since the question has been separated to restaurant, I will respond to that specifically. There are some 6,000 people, as Lifestyles, a recent magazine said, recent issue, some little below 6,000 people living here. That is a wonderful population to draw people into the restaurant from, if they want to come, if you're offering it. If you don't offer the right food, the dogs aren't going to eat it. Sorry to use that phrase, but that's true. And as I said earlier, you need to do the correct pricing, the correct menu, and you need to advertise it to get people to come in and be interested. You need to have specials. You need to do a master marketing marketing program to get people here, and you have to supply them with what they want. Lower price meals, better meals, a la carte menus, and see what has been successful in the past and what's going to be successful in the future. Evidently, what we have today is not successful when you only have 300 or 400 people, maybe 5, that will eat in the restaurant once a month, and your costs are sky high and your revenue is low. So you need to offer what people are going to eat, and you need to offer it at the times they want to eat it.
Stop.
Thank you.
Where do I begin? I have been trying for this past year, serving on the Restaurant and Lounge Committee. We made 29 recommendations to the board. You could actually go back and review the January Lifestyles article, and you'll see some of them there and the status of those. I created and executed, along with fellow committee members, the restaurant survey program, which was specifically designed to get the community's voice and their opinions on what they wanted and how they felt about the restaurant and lounge. That survey program was cut after 5 months without any forewarning by the board. So they silenced us, and that program is no longer in place. I hope that you still have a voice in at least, using the message to management or somehow getting your responses to them, but that program was ended. They then, since in January, reduced my charter, the Restaurant and Lounge Advisory Committee charter, and took out a lot of the things that we were doing in regards to the menu, the pricing, staffing levels, use of facilities, and capital improvement. All was removed from the charter without any communication previously to the Restaurant and Lounge Committee. So I have a lot of ideas. Again, that's my experience and my background, and I will continue to fight the good fight and hopefully improve the overall running of the restaurant, but it goes back to good operations and good management. Thank you.
One of the challenges I think we've had with people coming to the restaurant is they don't know what's going on. And part of that truly is communication. I can see that partnering with some of the advisory committees can be very helpful in ideas of what to offer, because I agree, small plates would be good, we've got to look at the pricing, I agree with that. But I think the biggest challenge we run across is people don't know about it. And I will give a nod to Hernan and that crew, because they have increased the ability to communicate. But the marketing committee, which is one of the committees we partner with, would be a different type of communication. They wouldn't be worried about creating the flyer, but they'd be talking about what to market, what's going to catch people's attention, what are people wanting. All of us have kind of said this, but one of the biggest things that I find is fascinating is there are people here who don't even know we have a restaurant. So how do you communicate that? And that, I think, is the biggest challenge we run against. We need to get all of these other things in place, I agree, but you gotta know about it. That's the challenge. So if you talk to people and they don't know we have a restaurant, please advise them that we do, and a lounge. Thank you.
Gary?
I guess my response would be back to what I said once before. Managers must manage. We're paying First Service Residential over $800,000 a year to manage the business. I understand, or at least I've been told, that the board members here spend a lot of time, probably 4 hours a day, running the place here. All the things that need to be done to keep Sun Lakes a beautiful place, an enjoyable place for people to live, and that's what they should be doing, but the managers should manage. Our food and beverage director ought to be coming to us and telling us what needs to be done to improve the occupancy in the restaurant, or another alternative. And I think that we also should consider another alternative, and that is to contract with a different restaurant operator. There's restaurant operators out there that run hundreds, if not thousands, of restaurants. So far, I don't believe we're getting a good management of the restaurant. But for us to take on marketing, we have marketing committees, and we need to use them.
Stop.
Howard? Howard, you're up. And the question is, do you think golf courses should be open to Four Seasons or the public? Howard? You're next. You're first. Howard, you're first. I'll repeat the question. Do you think our golf courses should be open to Four Seasons or the public?
Is it me or Lori? You. Okay. I was making notes, completely slipped it. Sorry. Should it be open to Four Seasons? This is one of the things that I think about thinking out of the box on what we're going to do with the golf course. Golf course number of annual contracts that have been sold for 2023 is 309. That's 309 regular golfers out of a population of 6,000. You can look at it one way, that evidently we can't support the number of people that really need to play golf, or we have to charge them an exorbitant amount of money in order for the golf course to break even or even come close to it, so that our subsidies aren't as much. Does that mean that we need to increase the price of the golf here, or does it mean that we need to increase our subsidies? Now, if we're not going to increase our subsidies, we need to get more revenue. And should it be done with someone like Four Seasons? If we open it up to Four Seasons, we'd probably have to open it up to all other communities. And in order to do that, we really need a plan on how to do it properly, make sure there's enough security. I'm in favor of opening it up, but I'm not in favor of doing it by just turning the key and having it happen. We need to plan it and do it such that it is safe, advisable,
Stop.
and it's financially mature.
Sharon?
There we go. Again, I'm going to always go back to it should be a community decision. And I think the board's responsibility is to gather all the information, the options available, do a complete study of the pros and cons, and present it to you as a community so that you can make a choice and have a voice in what you would like to see in your community. I will say, however, that the revenue, when we look at the annual golfers, the players, when we kind of go back, let me see here, back in 2011 totals, we had 409. In 2022, we were down to 265. So the fact that those who are golfing has decreased, I think there was a high of over 500. I think you know that number even more firmly.
Couple years.
There was over 500 players, and we've dropped in that number, the annual payers that play. We're subsidizing the rest. So I think that when you have all the information, that again, I think the board should gather and supply to you, then you can make an informed decision. Is the fact that you're subsidizing for the lower golf usage because we want the beautiful course, or do you want to consider having a structured program that allows others to come in, just like our guests come in, our vendors come in, but a structured program that will help lower your assessment costs. When you have all the information, you may decide that's in your best interest, but ultimately, it's your decision. Thank you.
As I've said before, I want what's best for Sun Lakes. And yes, I want all of the community to be able to voice their decision and their thoughts on this golf course. I will tell you, when we were talking about what brought all of us here and what makes our property values stay high, it's the golf course, one of the number one things. Now, this was an amenity, and I know you've heard this, and it's part of what keeps our property values high. It's never supposed to have been a challenge or a hardship to take care of that. Part of what happens when you open up the golf course is there's a whole bunch of other things that go along with that, like buying more carts and building a cart barn. We only have 12 carts right now that we can use. But bigger than that is the concern of people of letting others in here. We've talked about having some sort of special membership where you buy for a grand amount of money the ability to come in here and golf. And that's something that we can open up to the community and ask if that's what you want to do. But one of the things we've done before is we've brought tournaments in here. And that has been very prosperous because we've been able to get not only golf revenue, but food and beverage revenue as well. And right now, we've got that locked in. We are the only golf course in this area that actually offers food and beverage. I think that would be something to look at moving forward because it's not opening it up to the public, but it's allowing the golfers here to play in tournaments with people outside and bringing in revenue. Thank you.
It wouldn't be my first choice to open the golf course up to the public. As others have said, I believe that there's decreasing utilization of the golf course. I mean, I heard Brian say that about 38% usage. So my first choice would be to get more people using the golf course. I think, and this is just my opinion, we need to better understand the changing demographics of our community. I believe we have more people that are working now, and they can't play golf during the day necessarily. So we have to have weekend programs to try and bring in newer golfers and the working people. I also think that we should, and I agree with the tournament idea, because we have the advantage that we have food services, and that could be a more controlled situation. But I also think we can look at other possible revenue sources rather than just opening the golf course up to the public or even Four Seasons. I think the idea if we did take a first step, would be for Four Seasons, and they would have to have their own golf cart. They'd have to join like a private golf club and pay a reasonable amount of
Stop.
dues. I'm sorry.
Once again, our golf course is also another one of our operational amenities and will probably always need to be subsidized. And our golf course is so much more than just a recreational activity. For those of us who are lucky enough to have it in our backyard, there aren't words to explain how beautiful it is to go out there and look at it. And it's just a calming, wonderful, enjoyable thing to have. I would like to keep our golf courses private. I'm open to plans or solutions that may generate more revenue, such as absentee owners having access to our amenities so that they can come in and golf and go to the restaurant. They all have cards that they can get in here with, and that would give us some revenue on our golf course. And I would also like to see, once again, like Beverly said, promoting more tournaments. Tournaments are big, and they bring us a lot of revenue in the restaurant lounge and on the golf course. Thank you.
Sharon, you're up. And the question is, are you in favor of a dog park?
Dog park. Ultimately, as I've said before, it should be a community decision. This, however, has been looked at many times over the 30-plus years, like I said, that I've been visiting. It has repeatedly been stopped due to being unable to find a viable location within the walls of Sun Lakes. I think the first step should have been actually identifying a location where every homeowner surrounding that area would be willing to sign a hold harmless agreement and agree not to sue the HOA now or in the future, because that is going to be the problem, I believe. If that cannot be done, I don't see how the board could approve it, considering moving forward would open us up to potentially costly litigation. However, if a location could be found, and then, of course, get a committee together and go about creating the work that would need to be done in regards to how it would work, the costs, the continued maintenance plans, and then present it to the board and to the community for them to decide. Thank you.
Well, this is a highly emotional subject, and one that has come up, as Sharon said, about every 7 years or so. Unfortunately, when we've looked at this before, when the boards have looked at this before, there hasn't really been a report created. There's some notes in this here, and there's some notes from some open session, but there's never been a report. So when this came up again, Randy and I collaborated to put together an ad hoc committee to do exactly that, to look at the pros and the cons and write it down so that we have a report that we can refer to. They are going to present that information to the board at exec in March. There's also something going out asking what people are thinking, whether or not they'd want to have a dog park. So we're reaching out to the community to get an opinion. So those two will come together to help the board decide how to move forward. And I agree with Sharon. There's the two biggest challenges that come with that are liability and location. And if those can be addressed, and we can actually find a location that is everybody here in Sun Lakes is up for, then it's something to move forward with. But that is going to be the biggest challenge. Location, location, We all know how that goes. So that's what we're working on, and we are asking the community for input, and we are talking to the people as we start to look at locations to get their buy-in or not. Thank you.
Stop.
Gary?
Well, I'm in favor of anything that the majority of the community says they want. As they've said, the problem is finding a suitable location. Somebody that's sitting out there threw an idea out to me, which is Four Seasons has a very large dog park, and it's right across or closely across from one of the entrance to Sun Lakes. And I also understand that they have very low participation in their dog park. So, as we've talked about the possibility to open our golf course up to Four Seasons, maybe we could preempt that and ask them to open up their dog park. I actually drove over there the other day, and it actually, I don't know if I saw the whole thing, but it looks like it extends right all the way out to Highland Springs Road. It's a huge golf park, and from what I understand, there's only 28 people using it. When I drove by, it was empty. So I think that's worth opening a dialogue. I think we should open a dialogue of a lot of things, and I think the master board is doing that. But they're a community just like ours. They have issues just like ours, and the dog park might be something that they would. I mean, obviously, people using it would have to pay. Well, they'd have to pay whether it's over there or whether we had it here.
Stop.
Larry?
Okay, actually, as Beverly said, I was going to say the same thing. We do have a committee. We have the Dog Park Ad Hoc Committee that has been working really, really hard on this whole situation. They have completed their recommendations. They will present them to the board at the next executive session on March 8th. The dog park survey results will be, I think, presented to us at the same time. So this will be good that we can make a really good informed decision. It would be premature for me to make an opinion at this time until we get those results, because I'm waiting for the results to finalize my opinion. And I really, truly am concerned about the dog lovers. I understand why you want a dog park. I get it. And I hope it all pulls together for you. But we're going to have to go with the statistics and what the majority of the people want. Thank you.
Thank you. The same person that talked to Gary talked to me about the same subject. Let's trade services dog park for golf, and that's a very interesting thing to think about. Now we need to think about two separate things. Do we want people coming in here to play golf, and do they want people going into their dog park? And how do you handle the two? Going into the dog park would cost less than coming over here to come in and play golf. So that's going to take some discussion. Location is the question on the dog park. Liability is also a question. I can see that if we vote, the whole community voting for the dog park, we may have 50% or even 70% saying they want one. But if you just take a survey of the people that are going to be surrounding where the dog park is going to go, 100% of them may say, we don't want it next door to us. But since 70% say, yes, we're going to stick them with the dog park that they don't want. So this is a two-edged sword. I'm in favor of a dog park. I don't have a dog, but I'm in favor of having one. But some people may not want to see it right next door to their house. And who are we going to listen to? Me, who lives across Sun Lakes, that has no skin in the game, talking about the dog.
Stop.
Or people living there.
Did Beverly start that?
I don't remember. You started.
All right, here we go. Serving on the master board is a fiduciary duty. What is your understanding of the details, and how would you handle or meet the responsibility. If you understand that, that's good.
Not until you say it again.
I'll repeat it. Serving on the master board is a fiduciary duty. What is your understanding of what it entails, and how do you plan to meet that responsibility?
And it's me.
It's,
Is it me?
no, it's Sharon. No, I started the last one. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's Beverly.
Fiduciary responsibility sounds like it's all about money, but it's all about everything here. The fiduciary responsibility of a board member is to do what's in the best interests of the entire association. Obviously, the finances are one of the big ones, but you also have to pay attention to the other things that we've been discussing here all afternoon, about the other parts that make a difference and make a difference for Sun Lakes. So fiduciary is obviously watching the finances, making sure you understand the three different operations in CIP and reserves, making sure you understand how we manage that money and where that money is going to and what it's going to do. So the finances are huge, but it's also about taking care of the quality of life that we have here and the looks of this community and the way it's run. So it's all of that. And basically what is based on is the finances' ability to do that. So we have to stay financially strong, and we are. And we have to manage that money and the ways that it needs to be managed. So reserves is one thing, CPI is one thing, it's CIP, I would get them backwards, and operations. And the operations are strong. We do manage that well, and it is part of the fiduciary that we have to look at. Thank you.
Stop.
Gary?
I would have a shorter answer. A fiduciary responsibility is to act in the best interest of the membership and to not involve yourself in conflicts where you're making recommendations that somehow would benefit yourself. In the end, that's what a fiduciary is responsible for doing. They act in the best interest of their, whoever it is, clientele, membership. They don't have conflicts of interest, and I think it's as simple as that. It's not easy, because oftentimes you feel like, even from the standpoint of, well, if this is done in the community, it might benefit me a little more, you know, if they don't put the dog park by this location, because it'll benefit me, but it won't benefit somebody else. You have to look at how things affect the people, how your decisions affect the people, and any self-interest in that is a problem. And that's really what fiduciary means.
Yes, this will be kind of a short answer for me as well, because I thoroughly understand fiduciary duties. I'm a real estate agent, and this was drummed into us for over and over again. Basically, your client's finances are more important than your own. You should not have any intentions of gaining anything at their expense. It's always focused on them. And so in order to move that into this arena, I would say that the residents' needs are more important than the board members' needs. I think that we need to have the best interest of the residents regarding expenditures, profits, losses, and managing our financials. But basically, I have a strong sense of fiduciary responsibility. Thank you.
Making the best of and making the right decisions is the most important part of fiduciary responsibility, to make sure that you maintain the value of things and maintain the best interests of the people that are depending upon you. You can't do it by your own self-interest, and it should be done by consensus, because if you do it by yourself, if a board member does it by his or herself, he's opening himself up for liability if he's making the wrong decisions all the time. So that's why this location has a group of advisory committees to make sure that they get the proper, what's the word I'm looking for? Advice on every subject that there is. One, you need a grounding in finance, you need a grounding in ability to maintain finances, but you also need to know what the community wants, what the community expects, and make sure that is done in the proper way. Thank you.
I think the simplest thing is putting the interest of others first. So when as I mentioned, being an insurance agent and selling financial products, and again, there's profits for the owner-operator in that, but we always had to first, what is the best interest of the individual? And that is, as a board, their responsibility as well. First is a duty of loyalty, like I shared in my opening. It's a duty of good faith, it's called, and it's to promote the best interests of the entire association, not a specific group or club. It's the entire community association. They have a duty of care, again, which is getting informed decisions regarding HOA matters. That means utilizing, as Howard said, the advisory committees. Most of the committees are industry experts. Why aren't we tapping into them and actually having them do a lot of the extra legwork, if you will, getting the information so that, again, a board can make informed decisions. And then again, a duty to act, however, within the scope of their authority, not changing the authority that they have. So they have to do all of those things. And as Howard did mention, I believe the committees can play an important role in the checks and balances of that, because board members are homeowners too. And there is an inherent conflict of interest, if you will, if something's important to them. But they have to put that aside and, again, put the entire community's needs first. Thank you.
I think we've had enough questions. I know the candidates up here are getting a little tired. I think they've expressed to us their ideas. I think they've been very open about what their suggestions might be and what have you. We had a number of questions left. Some of them were borderline as being not for all the candidates. And I think that's very important, that a question, if asked, has to be able to be answered by every candidate, just to be fair. So let's go to the last item on our agenda, and that's the candidates' closing comments. And we have had a drawing also. So to begin with, Beverly Simmons, you're first. You get 1.5 minutes, and of course, our timer will readily tell you to knock it off.
So I believe I have made a strong contribution to this community in the past 2 years as a member of the Master Board. I'll admit, I came in a bit naive, and I've learned a lot. But I believe that experience, coupled with the skills and knowledge I bring, will continue to enhance the effectiveness of this board, as well as support the community and its residents. I'm a strong communicator, and it's important to me to empower others to bring forth their talents, which keeps our community strong. I listen with an open mind and a willingness to learn. I'm honest and respectful, and I have no hidden agendas. I'm accountable for what I say, and I'll take responsibility for what I do. And finally, I'm a team player. The well-being of Sun Lakes and its residents are foremost in all my decisions. And I'm not afraid to ask questions to make sure we're taking action for the best interests of the entire community, the entire association. There are 3 positions open this year, and you got a full field to choose from. It's important that you feel heard and you feel you're getting someone with whom you can communicate, who will best represent you and the entire community. Thank you for your attention. I'm proud to be part of this community, and I look forward to serving you for another 2 years.
We are so blessed to live in such a beautiful community, and I wanted to continue to stay that way for all of us today and into the future. I'd like to use all of my skills and experience in serving each of you and the entire community by serving on the board of directors. I want to ensure that those of you who would like to have the opportunity to voice your choices in the decisions that impact you, your home, and your investment. From decisions like naming of the restaurant and lounge, the carpet in the ballroom, the type of lounge remodel you'd like to see, and even the expansion of the board. I believe the board must fulfill its fiduciary responsibilities to this community. I believe it is the board's responsibility to hold the management company accountable for fulfilling their obligations to all of us and working within the budget as outlined. I believe the board must place safety and security of the community as a priority, including the ongoing fight against the warehouse. I believe we can enjoy all of the amenities and maintain our beautiful community without excessive assessments year over year. One of the most important opportunities to voice your choices is in this election. It will determine the future of our community. I believe that we should do what we can to support our community as our skills, experience, abilities, and passions direct us to. I would consider it an honor to serve Sun Lakes as a member of the Master Board of Directors, and I would appreciate your vote. And I will be having a meet the candidate every Monday up until election in the lounge, starting at 2 o'clock, going as late as 6 on some nights, so please
Thank
chat.
you.
Howard?
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. It's been a pleasure. I'd like to leave you with two thoughts. First one, executive session master board meetings. According to California Civil Code Section 4935, the master board may only hold executive session meetings for the following subjects: legal matters, formation of contracts, member discipline, personnel matters, payment plans, and lien foreclosures. Our master board's executive sessions include operational items such as project proposals, maintenance, repairs, and the selection of paint colors and carpeting. That's got to change. Our new board should do that. Second of all, a master board should set goals and hold the management responsible and accountable to attain them. Our board micromanages, and we don't hold the management company responsible nor accountable. We need to make the management company manage or replace individuals or the company itself to make sure that that's done properly. Our management team, our board of directors, shouldn't be doing the job that it is being forced to do. That's what we pay somewhere around $1 million a year for our management company to do. Let's take the board out of the business of micromanaging this place. Thank you very much.
Gary?
Turn this on. I believe I've been in business for myself, and I've always felt like the best decisions are made by a group. As a board member, I will work to listen to my fellow board members and get as much good information as we can from our committees like the Finance Committee, the Restaurant and Lounge Committee, etc. I believe our priority should be the financial management. I do believe that we have some critical financial issues that need to be addressed. I can tell you frankly that I'm not happy with First Service Residential. Not only are they not being effective in management areas, they're also not transparent when it comes to financial information. You can't manage without information. I mean, information is how you make decisions, and we have a difficulty getting that information from First Service. I would be in favor of increasing the board to 7 people because, like I said, you get more good information or when you have people working together. I believe that the safety of this community is paramount, and we have to manage Securitas or whatever security company we have.
Thank you.
Laurie, you're the final candidate.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, food and beverage is always a primary financial issue for the HOA. The board and management are addressing this with the analysis group. We are developing a business plan that will increase revenues and control costs. I have great expectations for our restaurant and lounge. At this point, I would like to point out that I think I am an asset to this community on this master board. It makes sense to re-elect an experienced board member who will continue to preserve, protect, and enhance our facilities. I'm logical and a voice of reason. I have a strong desire to protect the residents of this community. I am dedicated to preserving the Sun Lakes lifestyle. In closing, I would like to thank all of you for attending today, and supporting our community during this election process. I would also like to thank the committees for their hard work and recommendations. Special thank you to my fellow board members, Bob Walter, Randy Robbins, and Beverly Simmons. It is a pleasure to work with you, and we are a good team. Please join me for coffee Monday, March 13th and 20th at 4 p.m. in the lounge. And when re-elected, I will continue to lead our community to growth and prosperity. Thank you.
And that concludes our candidates forum. I would like to commend all of you today for leaving your warm homes and coming out
Yes.
today in our snowstorm quotations. But this has been delightful. I would like to give a special thanks to our delegates for the work they did and for volunteering. Thank you, and be careful going home. Good night.